A radio drama is different because we are no longer relying on body language and facial expressions to convey a story, but rather the intensity and passion coming through actors' voices to portray a dramatic play.
I would say the whole recording aspect is kind of different. For the plays, I've never really done that before, but it's interesting. It's a good experience. Also, the fact that we don't have any choreographed like moves and where we need to be on stage, since we're not actually performing on stage, you're just hearing our voices, which is going to be really interesting to see how that turns out.
This process is both similar and different to a regular play or musical. I think it gives us a greater degree of freedom, so we can take more time to, develop our characters, take more time to make sounds, make music, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have that same level of cohesion that like a play does, where you can, be with someone and kind of develop your character together, which is a little bit disappointing, but I think there's just kind of trade-offs in that way.
The most difficult aspect of creating the radio drama is that since it's an alien invasion, I've never really seen an alien, and I have to create sound effects for aliens, so it's kind of difficult to create things I've never seen before, or like create them like completely from my imagination, because like it's easier to create like an airplane sound because I've heard an airplane before, but I've never heard an alien, so it's a fun aspect of the play, but it's also kind of difficult because I have to, like, it's basically like my imagination and like what I can find around the house.
I had to record so many times for my monologue. I'm in a plane, and so none of my friends were available to Zoom, and my sisters were gone, so I had to set up a computer upstairs, leave my phone, record a voice memo, go with a different computer down to the garage, and do my monologue through while on Zoom with myself in my room. It was very complicated, and it took me a bit. It was like a 12-minute voice memo because I did my monologue like 4 times because I wanted a good take.
For the premiere, I'm super excited to see my family's reaction. They haven't really heard anything because other than like the distant screams from my room when I've been working, or like the distant like yelling and the loudness, and they're like, "What is that, Sherisse?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm just working on the radio show." And my dad's super excited to hear it, so I cannot wait for them to see all the work that I've done, and I'm super proud of it.
The most fun part about this process, I think, is just I get to experiment with a bunch of really cool different sounds. Like I've spent hours just messing with different knobs and dials on, these different synthesizers that I pretty much would never have touched if it wasn't for this show.
So this process is naturally very different from a typical musical production. I've done a lot of this at Skyline, and this has been a very unique experience. If you were rehearsing in a normal production, you would be focusing on blocking and body language and how you're interacting with the other characters. But for this one, because it's purely vocal, then you have to try and do all of the acting with your voice, which was very interesting to try and learn how to do. And then as well, to create kind of that blocking, I guess that was more of the sound team job. Because I know, at least one of the follies that I did, we did actual footsteps. And so whereas you would be hearing or seeing those footsteps on stage, you would be seeing the characters actually moving towards each other. You had to make the sound of footsteps and just imagine in your head what that would look like, if that makes any sense. So the blocking is, instead of visual, it turned to audio, which I thought was really, really interesting.
The tools we have to use to convey the story is also different, since radio is a purely auditory medium, so you're immersed in a whole different way. Like instead of us presenting you all of the imagery or the world we're in, like with theater, you have to take what we give you in the sound and the soundscape and come up with the rest in your head. So I think it's a bit more interactive, I guess. The audience is kind of working with us to create the full picture.
My inspirations for the different sounds came from movies like Alien, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they use these really like tinny synths, especially for the higher leads, they're called, the different, the melodies. I tried to pay homage to like those old radio serials with like the spooky sounding organ, especially with like the first song, the opening monologue song, because I think that's just kind of a fun little staple of the genre.
As a sound engineer, the most interesting and fun thing that I've done has been creating the sound of the alien. How I created it was I took roughly, I think, 15 different sounds of mechanical machines. I think I even included some metal, some dirt, some, what else is there, wood sounds in there. And it's just the sound of an alien like rising out of the dirt. And oh my gosh, I am so proud. It sounds so cool. I've messed with the sounds. I've done some pitch changes. I just think it sounds really, really, really cool. And I'm super, super proud of it. And yeah.
I would say the most fun aspect of creating a radio drama for me was thinking creatively about what Foley sounds I could make. It was fun to think, because like for the background noise and for different sounds, it was like, ooh, I could use like a spoon for that to make like a crashing noise, but it was a lot of different things like that. It was fun to think creatively about.
Oh, I just walked a few minutes to like stomp on a grate for Foley sounds, and apparently that grate just doesn't exist. So now we are grate hunting. Wish me luck. I found a grate, okay? Yay. It's not the grate I was first picturing, but I mean it'll do. So this is the sound.
I'm really curious to see what the audience will think of the show. I remember when I was reading the script and just thinking like, oh my gosh, this would be horrifying for someone in like the 1930s to hear, let alone someone today to hear. It's got some, spooky stuff in it. I think, our actors did an incredible job with their performances, and I think the Foley artists also did an amazing job creating these really convincing sounds to, propel the show forward.
I am really looking forward to, with this premiere, being able to see how all of the elements have come together. Usually with Tech Week, we're able to hear and see visually like all of the elements of the show coming together, and that hasn't necessarily been the case with this process just because it is a radio drama. So on premiere night, I'm really excited to just sit down, watch, and hear everything come to life.
I think the audience is going to respond positively. At least I hope they do. We've put a lot of hard work into the show, a lot of hours, and I'm really glad that we've been able to still have a production even in these crazy times.
I hope that the audience enjoys the show. There's some great screams and other effects in there as well that I hope really immerses them and draws them into the story.
For the audience, I think they'll have a really fun and entertaining time, because this is a form of entertainment that it hasn't been popular or for a very long time, and it will kind of take us back in time to what our grandparents used to listen to, because like back in the day they would just sit around the radio and listen in, and that's what they did. And during COVID there's been a lot of new different types of entertainment, because a lot of entertainment has been taken away from us, and so I think this has just been a really fun and creative thing, and I'm really excited for people to hear it.